So looking at this next problem here, we've been given the asymptotes and a point, and we need to figure out this equation of hyperbola. So let's just sketch what this diagram looks like. Okay, so we have a slope of 2/3 and a y-intercept of about 3. Okay, so we're going to have something like this, about 2/3, y-intercept of about 3. Okay, we're going to have slope of negative 2/3 and y-intercept of just over 2. Okay, so we're going to have look like that. Okay, so our looks like our center is close to the y-axis here. Now we really want to have an idea where the center is. Okay, that center is important. In fact, I'm going to mark it in a different color here. I'm just going to mark it in green. Okay, so our center is very important. So we want to find the center. We can find our center by just making these equations equal to each other. So we end up with that is equal to 2/3 x plus 11 over 3. Working this out, I'm going to subtract from both sides, so I get negative 4 over 3, subtract 11 over 3. I'm going to add 2/3, so I'm going to end up with 4/3 x, so I end up with x equals negative 1. Okay, that's kind of where that looks about reasonable where we put it. Okay, so the y coordinate for that center then, if I plug in negative 1 is going to be plus 2, so it's going to be y equals exactly 3. Okay, so that coordinate here then is x equals negative 1, y equals positive 3. Okay, so that represents the center. Okay, so I'm just going to mark this out. This is my center of my graph. Okay, so we've got a key piece of information here. We do want to know what the a and b value of this is. Now we cannot assume that b is 2, a is 3, because all we know is that that's the slope ratio. So we know the proportion of b to a, but we don't know the actual value of b and a. The other thing we don't know is whether it's trans x or trans y. This is where this coordinate is going to come in. Okay, so I'm going to look at this coordinate here, and I need to figure out if it's trans x or trans y. So at 2 over this coordinate here, I need to know if it's above or below the line. This coordinate is approximately 6. Okay, so if I go 2 over, okay, is that going to be 6 up? Yeah, it looks like it's going to be, that line maybe looks like it's a little bit above. So it's hard to tell. So how do we test it? Okay, so we can check this point. Okay, the way we're going to check this point is we're going to test it in our asymptote. And what we're looking for is, are we going to be above the asymptote or below the asymptote at x equals 2? Okay, and that's really what's important. So I'm going to test x equals 2, and I'm going to find the point on this line, and I'm going to see, is this coordinate here above or below? Okay, so we're going to test this. I'm just going to do it a different color here. We're going to do a test in orange. Okay, so when I test, I'm testing x equals 2, and I'm going to find that point, and I'm going to compare it to that point there. So my test then is, I'm going to plug in my x coordinate into my line, so it's going to be 2 over 3x plus 11 over x. So this becomes y equals 2 over 3 times 2 plus 11 over 3. Okay, when I plug this in, I'm going to end up with 15 over 3, or y equals 5. Okay, just double checking my math. Yeah, that looks right. So this is at y equals 5. That's where that point is. This coordinate is above that line. Okay, so that coordinate is going to be right about here. Okay, and I'm just going to pull this down a little bit so that I can move it or play around with it a little bit more, because it looks like my trans is going to be y. Okay, so I'm just going to move it down a little bit there. Okay, so there's my coordinate. That 2 for x root 8 plus 3 is going to be that red dot right there. It's above the y-axis, it's above the asymptote. Okay, so from this we can say that that is above, that point is above, so this must be trans y. Okay, so now that's important because now I can establish if it's equal to -1 or +1. That will make a difference calculating my a and b values when I do this. So I'm going to just set this up so far what I know. Okay, so I know that this is it's going to be x plus 1 squared over, okay, minus y, it's going to be minus 3 squared over, that's equal to -1. Okay, and I'm just going to make that negative red, okay, because we've established the trans y, and that's why that we have -1 here. I'm going to plug in my center, so this is going to be +1 minus 3, okay, is my center. And then what's left is I have my a and b values to solve for. So I have a squared and I have my b squared.